All Moodle courses have a gradebook where the marks are stored. Teachers can go to the gradebook to see how their students are doing. Students can go to the gradebook to get their grades for all their different courses. Many different people work with the gradebook at different levels and in different ways. In some courses, it's how the final grade is calculated. In other courses, it's just a useful reference for students to see how they're doing. In this video, I'd like to look briefly at what the gradebook is. But more importantly, perhaps, at how we can use it in a way that doesn't cause confusion for students or other teachers. Let's begin by looking at one. To see them, we go to the administration block and click on Gradebook Setup. Once there, we can see all of the activities that are in that course, and ideally they're laid out in different categories. Here, the examination marks has all of the things that will contribute towards the final grade, and here the ungraded quizzes will include all the things that don't contribute towards the final grade. Typically, when we open the gradebook, it opens on this Gradebook Setup page, but for viewing the marks, the most interesting is the grader report. This opens up a spreadsheet with names, grades, etc. And as I scroll right, you can see the names column stays still so that I can compare the grades of all. I'm also given the option to sort by any column. I can sort by name. Here I'm going to sort the values for the Term 1 examination. And you see that now we have the highest grades at the top, and what you can't see is that all the names have changed accordingly. Also, from this single user view, I can hover over this pencil icon and I get a view of just this item. I'll click on it now. This opens this page, which has all of the grades for every student, but only for that single item. And it also gives us the opportunity to write feedback and do various other things that you can explore. I go back now. In a similar way, if I scroll all the way back to the names, I'm given the opportunity to see the performance of just one student in a single view. Here I see all of the activities and the marks that that student got for each one, including those that they didn't do. And for things that allow feedback, I can again give feedback. So these single user views are all available from the grader report. I'll go back there. Also, if we don't want to watch this in Moodle, we can go to Administration, which opens by default on Grade Administration, and export it as an Excel spreadsheet or whatever we prefer, and store it on our own computer. This is useful for mail merge and things when it comes to report writing, as well as studying their grades. What's important here is that the course total is the sum of all the examination results and does not include all of the extra quizzes that are not for grades. If you add anything to Moodle, it will automatically include it in the course total. This probably won't mean that the student will be awarded the wrong grade at the end of the year, but as students can see this total, it does give them an unrealistic idea of their progress. So let's first of all look at how we can prevent this from being a problem. I'm going to go back to the gradebook setup, and here we see the solution, which is to keep ungraded and graded items in separate categories. Moodle doesn't have separate categories automatically, so we'll have to add our own or be very careful. To see the effect of this, let's very briefly change the total value for this category. At the moment it's set to 0, but if I edit the settings, I can change the category total, instead of none as it should be, to value. Now, when I save those changes, we see something quite different. Here is that same gradebook. We see that the term 1 grade is 75 here, 75 here, but the course total is 80. And that's because it's now included some weighted average of all the other activities. I'm going to quickly put that back to how it should be, and then we'll look at how these things occur and how to avoid them. Let's say I want to add a quiz to my course, and I'm going to do it in Reading Week for Term 1. I'll add an activity, find quiz, select it and add. And I'll think of a suitable name. Dummy quiz, because this isn't a real one. I'm not going to set any of the things up for this quiz because it's not real, but let's look at the grade. By default, it goes into uncategorized, but we're given a choice. I'm given a choice between uncategorized and QM examination marks. And it seems to me sensible that it shouldn't go in the QM examination marks, and so I'm going to leave it in uncategorized. I'll save that and go back to the module. Now, if we look at the gradebook, we can see that our dummy quiz has been added at the bottom here. We can also see that the gradebook is in a bit of a mess. This is the outer uncategorized part, which is the name of the course. And within that, we've got the QM examination marks. That's exactly what we saw when we tried to add the quiz. We can see that several other quizzes have been added in the uncategorized. Then there's the examination block, and then there's our new dummy quiz, which is again uncategorized. Also, looking more closely, I see that an attendance register has been added. Moodle will take attendance, but automatically it gives students a grade, and therefore we have to be careful where we put it and how we set it up. At the moment, attendance is being calculated as part of the examination marks. I'd like to change this gradebook. I can see that the uncategorized things aren't causing a problem for the calculation of the student's grade, but they will be causing that problem that we saw in the gradebook, and the students will be seeing the wrong mark. There's no standard solution for this, but I would like to propose something that we do as a department, which I think will be unconfusing, and that is to add a new category for non-coursework. In fact, we'll even call it non-coursework. While any name would do, it should be something that makes it very clear to other users that this category won't be going towards the course total. And the category total for this will be none. So anything that we put in this category will now be okay. I'll save changes. When you save changes, the grades are recalculated to suit the new setup that you've got, so you'll always go through this screen. Now we see our non-coursework down here and our QM examination marks here. To move activities into here is quite simple. We just check them. All of these will want to move, and our new dummy quiz will want to move. And then we're given the choice of where to put them in this drop-down menu, and we want non-coursework. Again, we have to recalculate, and things look much better already. We've still got the problem of this attendance, which we could do exactly the same way. In fact, we could have done it before, but I just want to show you a slightly different way of doing it, which is using this move icon. If I click on this, it opens up the same gradebook, but this time there's a space between each activity. And we can just select which space we want it to go in. So this grey block here is non-coursework, and so it definitely wants to go in here. Let's just put it at the bottom. I click on that space, we recalculate the grades, and there it is. I think you'll agree that anyone looking at this gradebook will find it very easy to understand what the different categories are for, and also anyone adding an activity will know where to put it. Let's quickly look at that now and go back to our quiz. This time, when we come to select a category, we're given uncategorized QM examination marks and this new section that we've added, non-coursework. Also, anyone else who might be adding something to our course will be given the same three options, and that name non-coursework does suggest that that's the place where it should be put. So now we know a little bit more about how the gradebook works. We know that we can see the marks there. We know that anything we add to Moodle could change the marks that are shown there. And we know at least one way to avoid the problem of displaying the wrong mark to the students. I just really want to mention one more thing about doing this in a careful way. It's slightly daunting to look at a gradebook like the one we're seeing here, and we think, okay, probably that quiz wants to be in its own category, but we've got some important marks here that we don't want to disturb, and it would be a shame if we do something in changing this gradebook that loses the marks or causes some trouble further down the line. One option here is to ask someone else to add the category, but we can also take a few precautions ourselves. The first thing to do might be to take a photograph. I'm going to just take a screenshot and save that to my desktop. That way, if I run into some problem, I at least know exactly how the gradebook was set up before. The other thing I'd like to do is to download the grades themselves. I do this by going to Administration, and when we have the gradebook open, automatically the first items are Gradebook Administration and the normal administration things are kept down here. And what I'd like to do is export the marks. I click on Export and I'm offered Excel spreadsheet. Well, I know what that is. It's safe. I'll save that. I'm taken to the items to be included, and I'd like to include everything. And I'll download that. I'll just save it next to the photo on my desktop. Once I've done that, I can go back to my gradebook and make any changes I want. And should something go wrong, I can go and get help with a photograph of how it should look and with all of the data backed up in case there's a problem. SOAS does back up all of our Moodle activities reasonably frequently, but it would be a lot simpler just to have the relevant data there. So, to summarise, ideally our gradebooks will be set up with one category that does not add any marks to the student's total. We do this by creating a category and setting the grade value to 0. And all new items that we're adding that aren't intended to go towards that total should go into this non-coursework total. Non-coursework is a good, clear name, but whatever you call it, it should be clear to the many other users exactly what that category is for and whether they should put their things into it. And finally, we can take backups and photos just in case something goes wrong when we're changing things. That's all.